I should say yes, definitely Dow 42.
So the Dow 42. Right, here you are.
Ah, yes, this is a wine indeed. Cockburn 27. To waste a bottle of Cockburn 27 on an experiment such as this is positively sacrilegious.
So that, you say, is the Cockburn 27. Number 2 was the Dow 42. And number 1 was the port-type wine stuff. Oh, can't think why Clarissa has such a thing in the house. Right, my turn.
Probably uses it for jugged hair or flavouring soup. There we go, Hugo. I should turn you around 3 times like blind man's buff.
No, here, steady on, steady on.
Got it?
Yes.
I'll swivel the glasses around instead.
Oh, there's no need to. Do you think I'd be influenced by what you said? I'm as good a judge of port as you any day, Rolly, my boy.
Can't be too careful.
What's going on here? The 3-card trick with glasses?
Who's that? Who's brought a dog into the room?
It's just young Warrender.
Oh, sounds like a dog that's been chasing a rabbit.
3 times the lodge gates are back in a Macintosh. The Herzegovina minister did it in 4 minutes 53 seconds. I went a lap, but could have done it in 6 minutes 10 seconds. I don't believe he did either. Only Chris Cataway himself could do it in that time, with or without a Macintosh.
Who told you about the Herzegovian minister?
Clarissa.
Clarissa.
Oh, Clarissa, don't you pay any attention to what Clarissa tells you.
I'm afraid, Warrender, you don't know your hostess very well. She's a young lady with a vivid imagination.
Do you mean she made the whole thing up?
I wouldn't put it past her.
You wait till I see that young woman. I'll have something to say to her. Gosh, I'm dead.
Oh, stop puffing like a grampus. I want to concentrate. There's a $5 at stake. Rolly and I have got a bet on.
Oh? What is it?
Oh, who's the best judge of port? We've got the Cockburn 27, a Dow 42, and the local grocer's special. But quiet now, this is important.
Well?
Don't hustle me, Rolly. I'm not going to rush my fences. Right, where's the next one?
Here you go.
Yes, I'm sure. I'm pretty sure about those 2. The first one's the Dow, the second was the Cockburn.
Okay, so you say number 3 was the Dow, and number 1 was the Cockburn.
Well, hardly necessary to taste the third, but I suppose I'd better go through with it.
Here we are.
Oh, what unspeakable muck. Oh, take me an hour to get the taste out of my mouth. Oh, here, get me out of this, Rolly.
Yeah, I'll do it.
So you say that number 2 was a grocer's special? That's rubbish. It's the Dow, no doubt of it.
Oh, you're losing your palate, Rolly.
Yeah, let me try. They all taste the same to me.
You young people, it's all this confounded gin you're always drinking. It ruins your palate.
Oh, hello, darlings. Have you settled it yet?
Yes, we're ready for you now, Clarissa.
Number 1's the Cockburn, number 2's the port-type stuff, and number 3 is the Dow. I'm right, eh?
Nonsense. Number 1's the port-type stuff, number 2's the Dow, number 3's the Cockburn. I'm right.
Darlings. Now, you take the tray back to the dining room. You'll find the decanter on the sideboard.
The decanter?
Why, yes, just the one decanter. Well, it's all the same port, you know.
You unprincipled humbug.
Oh, well, it's been such a wet afternoon and you meant to play golf. You must have some fun, and you have had fun over this, haven't you, darlings?
You should be ashamed of yourself showing up your elders and betters.
And who was it said that he knowed Cockburn 27 anywhere?
Never mind, Hugo. Let's have some more.
Right you are.
Here, let me get that.
Thank you, young man.
Right. Now then, Clarissa. What's all this about the Herzegovina minister?
Oh, what about him?
Or did he ever run to the lodge gates and back 3 times in a Macintosh, 4 minutes, 53 seconds?
The Herzegovina minister is a dear, but he's well over 60, and I doubt very much if he's run anywhere for years.
But so you did make the whole thing up. Why?
Oh, well, you've been complaining all day about not getting enough exercise.
Clarissa, do you ever speak the truth?
Of course I do. Sometimes. But when I am speaking the truth, nobody ever seems to believe me. It's very odd. I suppose when you're making things up, you get carried away, and that makes it sound more convincing.
Well, I might have broken a blood vessel. Well, fat lord, you'd kid about that.
Oh, I do believe it's clearing up. Oh, it's going to be a lovely evening. Ah, how delicious the garden smells after rain.
Do you really like living down here in the country?
Love it.
You must get bored to death. It's all so incongruous for you, Clarissa. You ought to lead a gay life in London.
What? Parties and nightclubs?
Well, you'd make a brilliant hostess.
It sounds like an Edwardian novel. Besides, diplomatic parties are terribly dull.
But it's such a waste of...
Of me?
Oh, yes. And then there's Henry.
What about Henry?
Well, I can't imagine why you ever married him. Years older than you, with a daughter at school. An excellent man, I have no doubt. But of all the pompous stuffed shirts, going about looking like a boiled owl. Well, dull as ditch water, no sense of humour, and... Oh, I suppose you think I oughtn't to say these things.
Oh, I don't mind. Say anything you like.
So you do realise that you've made a mistake?
Oh, but I haven't made a mistake. Jeremy, are you making immoral advances to me?
Well, definitely.
Oh, how lovely. Go on.
Well, I love you.
Oh, I'm so glad.
That's entirely the wrong answer. You ought to say, I'm so sorry in a deep, sympathetic voice.
Oh, but I'm not sorry. I'm delighted. Oh, I like people to be in love with me. Would you do anything in the world for me?
Well, anything.
Really? What if I murdered someone? Would you help? Oh, no, I must stop.
No, go on.
You said just now, do I ever get bored?
Yes.
Well, I suppose in a way I do. Or rather, I might if it wasn't for my private hobby.
Oh? What is it?
Well, you see, Jeremy, all my life has been peaceful and happy. Nothing exciting ever happens. So I began to play my little game. I call it supposing.
Supposing?
I say to myself, supposing I were to come down here one morning and find a dead body in the library, what should I do? Or supposing a woman were to be shown in here one day and say that she and Henry had been secretly married in Constantinople and our marriage was bigamous, what should I say to her? Or supposing I had to choose between betraying my country or seeing Henry shot before my eyes? Or even supposing I were to run away with Jeremy, what would happen next?
Well, I feel flattered. What did happen?
Oh, well, the last time I played, we were on the Riviera at Jolie and Henry came after us. He had a revolver with him.
Oh, my goodness, did he shoot me?
He said, Clarissa, either you come back with me at once or I kill myself.
Well, jolly decent of him. I can't imagine anything more unlike Henry. And what did you say to that?
Well, I've played it both ways.
Oh, my darling, you certainly do have fun.
Hello, Clarissa.
Oh, hello, Pippa. You're late.
Music lesson. Any food about? I'm starving.
Didn't you get your buns to eat on the bus?
Oh, yes, but that was half an hour ago. Can't I have some cake or something to last me till supper?
We'll see what we can find.
Is there that cake with the cherries on top?
Oh, no, you finished that yesterday.
Ahoy there. Mrs. Howsham Brown about?
Yes, she just went with Pippa to get her something to eat.
Children shouldn't eat between meals.
Would you come in, Miss Peake?
Oh, no, I won't come in because of my boots. Bring half the garden with me if I did. I just wanted to ask, what veggies for tomorrow's lunch?
Oh, well, I'm afraid I don't really know.
Tell you what, I'll come back. Oh, you will be careful of that desk, Mr. Warrender.
Yes, of course I will.
It's a valuable antique. You wanted to wrench the drawers out like that.
Well, I'm terribly sorry. I was only looking for notepaper.
Middle pigeonhole. That's right. Curious how often people can't see what's right in front of their eyes.
Smashing bun.
Hello there. How was school today?
Pretty foul. World affairs. Miss Wilkinson loves world affairs. She's terribly wet. Can't keep order.
Well, what's your favourite subject?
Biology. It's heaven. Yesterday we dissected a frog's leg. Look what I found at a second-hand bookstall. It's awfully rare, I'm sure. Over 100 years old.
Well, what is it exactly?
It's a kind of recipe book. It's thrilling. Absolutely thrilling.
Well, what is it about?
What?
It seems very absorbing.
What? Gosh.
Evidently a good tuppenny worth.
What's the difference between a wax candle and a tallow candle?
Well, I should imagine that a tallow candle is markedly inferior, but surely you can't eat it.
Can you eat it? Sounds like 20 questions. Do you know demon patience? Suppose you wouldn't like to play beggar my neighbour?
No.
I thought you wouldn't. I wish we could have a fine day for a change. Such a waste living in the country when it's wet.
But do you like living in the country?
Rather. I like it much better than living in London. This is the wizard house with a tennis court and everything. We've even got a priest's hole.
Priest's hole? In this house?
Yes.
No, I don't believe it. Wrong period.
Well, I call it a priest's hole. Look, I'll show you. Watch this. You pull here. See? It isn't really a priest's hole, of course. Actually, that door leads through into the library.
Oh, does it? So it does.
But it's all rather secret, and you'd never guess who was there unless you knew. I'm using it all the time. The sort of place would be very convenient for putting a dead body, don't you think?
Well, absolutely made for it. The Amazon is looking for you.
Oh, Miss Peake. What a bore.
That's mine.
Greedy thing.
Well, first she hailed me as our ship, and then ticked me off for manhandling that desk.
She's a terrible pest. But she goes with the house. Black 10 on the red jack. And she's really a very good gardener.
Well, I know. I saw her outside my bedroom window this morning, digging something that looked like an enormous grave.
Oh, that's deep trenching.
Yeah, red 3 on the black 4.
Seems to have cleared up at last. No time for golf, though. Only about 20 minutes of light left. Look, that goes there. I suppose we'll just go across to the golf house.
Right, well, I'll go and get my coat. What about you, my boy?
I'll go get my jacket.
Right.
Are you sure you don't mind dining at the clubhouse, darling?
Not at all. A very sensible arrangement as the servants are going out.
Your supper is ready in the schoolroom, Miss Pippa.
Oh, good, I'm ravenous.
Oh, here, you pack those away first.
No bother.
Excuse me, madam.
Oh, yes, Elgin, what is it?
There has been a little unpleasantness over the vegetables.
Oh, dear, with Miss Peake?
Yes, madam. Mrs. Elgin finds Miss Peake most difficult, madam. She is continually coming into the kitchen and criticizing and making remarks. And Mrs. Elgin doesn't like it. She doesn't like it at all. Wherever we have been, Mrs. Elgin and myself have always had very pleasant relations with the garden.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll try to arrange it.
Thank you, madam.
How tiresome they are, and what
Curious things they say. How can one have pleasant relations with the garden? It seems improper in a pagan sort of way.
You're lucky with that couple. Where did you get them?
registry office.
Hope it's not that what's-his-name one that sends you crooks.
Cooks.
No, crooks.
Hurry up there, Pippa.
There. Which one didn't always have to do the clearing up?
Oh, take your bun with you. And your satchel. Hat. Oh, here. And shut the door.
Wonderful. She's such a different child. You've done a good job there, Clarissa.
I think she really likes me now and trusts me.
Well, I quite enjoy being a stepmother.
She seems to be a normal, happy child again.
I think living in the country has made all the difference. And she goes to a very nice school and is making lots of friends there. Yes, I think she's happy and as you say, normal.
It's a shocking thing to see a kid get into the state she was in. I'd like to wring Miranda's neck.
Pippa was absolutely terrified of her mother.
Shocking business.
I feel furious every time I think of Miranda. What she made Henry suffer and what she made that child go through. I still can't understand how any woman could.
Taking drugs is a nasty business. It alters your whole character.
Well, what got her started on them in the first place?
I think it was that swine Oliver Costello. I believe he's in on the drug racket.
He's a horrible man. Really evil, I always think.
She's married him, hasn't she?
About a month ago.
Well, Henry's well rid of Miranda. He's a nice fellow, Henry, a really nice fellow.
Do you think you need to tell me that?
He doesn't say much, undemonstrative, but sound all through. That young fellow, Jeremy, what's his name? What do you know about him?
Oh, well, he's very amusing.
That's all you people seem to think about these days. Don't do anything foolish, will you?
Don't fall in love with Jeremy Warrender, is that what you mean?
That would be extremely foolish. Clarissa, my darling, I've watched you grow, and you mean a great deal to me. If you're ever in any trouble of any kind, you would come to your old guardian, wouldn't you?
Of course, Rolly, darling. And you needn't worry about Jeremy.
I hope you don't mind my coming in this way, Mrs. Howsham-Brown. I shan't make the room dirty. I've left my boots outside. I'd just like you to take a look at this broccoli.
Oh, well, it looks very nice.
Take a look.
Seems all right to me.
Of course it's all right. I brought in just such another yesterday, and that woman in the kitchen, of course, I don't want to say anything against your servants, Mrs. Howsham-Brown, though I could say a great deal. But that Mrs. Elgin actually told me it was such a poor specimen, she wasn't going to cook it. She said something like, if you can't do better than that in the kitchen garden, you'd better take up some other job. Oh, I was so angry I could have killed her.
Oh, but
I never want to make trouble, but I'm not going into the kitchen to be insulted. In the future, I shall leave the vegetables outside the back door, and Mrs. Elgin can leave a list there of what is required.
Thank you.
I'll answer it. Hello. Yes, Coppleston Court. You want Mrs. Brown? Yes, she's here.
this is Mrs. Hailsham. Hello? Hello? Oh, how odd. They seem to have rung off.
Excuse me, but Mr. Sellon always liked this table just over here. And you will be careful, won't you, about marks made by glasses on the furniture, Mrs. Brown Hailsham? I mean, Mrs. Hailsham Brown. Oh, well, it's really all the same thing, isn't it? Brown Hailsham, Hailsham Brown.
No, it's not. A horse chestnut is hardly the same thing as a chestnut horse.
I'm getting a regular ticking off, quite sarcastic. Well, good night all. I must be toddling off. Give me the broccoli. Horse, chestnut, chestnut, horse. Jolly good. I must remember that.
Oh, how does Henry bear that woman?
He finds her very hard to take.
Oh, I should think so. So damned arsed and all that hearty schoolgirl manner.
Case of arrested development, I'm afraid.
I agree she's maddening, but she's really a very good gardener, and she goes with the house. And seeing the house is so wonderfully cheap.
Cheap, is it? You surprise me.
Oh, marvellously cheap. It was advertised. We came down and saw it and took it then and there for 6 months furnished.
Who does it belong to?
Oh, and Mr. Sellon. He died. He was an antique dealer in Maidstone.
That's right, Sellon and Brown. I once bought a very nice Chippendale mirror there. Sellon lived here and used to go into Maidstone every day, but I believe he brought customers out here sometimes as well.
Ah, yes, that is one of the disadvantages of the house. Only yesterday, a man in a violent check suit drove up in a sports car and wanted to buy things. He wanted to buy that desk. I told him it wasn't ours and we couldn't sell it, but he simply wouldn't believe me and kept on raising the price. He went up to £500 in the end.
£500? Good gracious. Why, even at the Antique Traders Fair.
I'm still hungry.
Oh, you can't be.
I am. Milk and chocolate biscuits and banana aren't really filling.
It's a nice desk, quite genuine, but not what I'd call a collector's piece.
Oh, ooh, perhaps it's got a secret drawer with a diamond necklace in it.
It has got a secret drawer.
What?
I found a book in the market all about secret drawers and old furniture, and I tried all over the house, but this is the only one that's got one. Look, I'll show you. See, you slide out this and sort of little catch thing underneath.
Not very secret.
Ah, but that's not all. Underneath is a spring and a drawer flies out. See?
Hello, what's inside? Sucks to you.
Oh, what? What?
I put that.
Villain.
Actually, there's an envelope with an autograph of Queen Victoria in it. Look, I'll show you.
Do you collect autographs, Pippa?
Not really. Owns a sideline. A girl at school collects stamps, and her brother's got a smashing collection himself. Last autumn, he thought he got one like the one in the paper, a Swedish something or other, which was worth hundreds of pounds. He was awfully excited and took it to the dealer. The dealer said it wasn't what he thought it was, but it was quite a good stamp. Anyway, he gave him £5 for it. £5 pretty good, isn't it? How much is Queen Victoria's autograph worth?
5 to 10 shillings, I should think.
There's Ruskin's here too, and Robert Browning's.
Not much either, I'm afraid.
I wish I had Neville Jukes or Roger Bannister's. These historical ones are rather mouldy, I think. Clarissa, can I see if there are any more chocolate biscuits in the larder?
Oh, if you like.
Oh, we must be off. Jeremy? Jeremy?
You're coming.
Oh, Henry ought to be back soon.
We'll just go out this way. It's nearer. Well, good night, Clarissa. Thank you for your hospitality.
Good night, Clarissa.
Good night. Warren and I will probably be back about midnight.
Oh, well, it's really a lovely evening. I'll come with you as far as the gate.
Good evening, sir.
Hello, I've come to see Mrs. Brown.
Oh, yes, sir. What name, sir?
Mr. Costello.
This way, sir. If you'll wait here, sir, Madam is at home. I'll see if I can find her for you. Mr. Costello, did you say?
That's right. Oliver Costello.
Very good, sir.
You?
Clarissa, what are you doing here?
That's rather a silly question, isn't it? It's my house.
This is your house.
Don't pretend you don't know.
Ah, yes. Charming, isn't it? Used to belong to old, what's his name, the antique dealer, Selin. Brought me out here once to show me some Louis Quinze chairs. Cigarette?
No, thank you. And I think you'd better go. My husband will be home quite soon, and I don't think he'll be pleased to see you.
But I particularly do want to see him. That's why I've come, really, to discuss suitable arrangements.
Arrangements?
For Pippa. Miranda's quite agreeable to Pippa spending part of the summer holidays with Henry and perhaps a week at Christmas, but otherwise...
What do you mean? Pippa's home is here.
My dear Clarissa, surely you're aware that the court awarded Miranda custody of the child. May I? The case was undefended, remember?
Henry allowed Miranda to divorce him, but it was agreed between them privately that Pippa should live with her father. If Miranda had not agreed to that, Henry would have divorced her.
You don't know Miranda very well, do you? She so often changes her mind.
I don't believe for one moment that Miranda wants that child or cares tuppence about her.
Suit yourself. There's no agreement made in writing, you know. But you're not a mother, my dear Clarissa. You don't mind my calling you that, do you? After all, now that Miranda and I are married, we're practically relations in law. Yes, I can assure you, Miranda is feeling violently maternal.
I don't believe it.
Please yourself. There was no agreement made in writing.
You're not going to have Pippa. The child was a nervous wreck. She's better now and happy at school, and that's the way she's going to remain.
And how will you manage that, my dear? The law is on our side.
What's behind all this? What do you really want? Oh, I see, of course, it's blackmail.
I was looking for you, madam. Will it be quite all right for us to leave now, madam?
Oh, quite all right. Yes, thank you.
The taxi has come for us. Supper is already in the lane in the dining room. Do you want me to shut up in here, madam?
Oh, no, thank you. I'll see to it.
Thank you. Good night, madam.
Good night, Elgin.
Blackmail is such an ugly word, Clarissa. Have I mentioned money?
Not yet, but that's what you mean, isn't it?
It's true we're not very well off. Miranda, you know, has always had very extravagant tastes, and I think she feels that Henry could spare her a somewhat larger allowance. After all, he's a rich man.
Now listen, I don't know about Henry, but I do know about myself. You try to take that child away from here, and I'll fight you tooth and nail, and I don't care what weapons I use. Why, it shouldn't be too difficult to get medical evidence proving Miranda's a drug addict. Why, I'd even go to Scotland Yard and talk to the narcotics squad, and I'd suggest they kept an eye on you.
Henry will hardly care for your methods.
Then Henry will have to lump them. It's the child that matters. I'm not having Pippa bullied or frightened.
Clarissa, did you know there are only 2 chocolate biscuits in a tin?
Why, hello, Pippa. My, how you've grown. I've just come to make some arrangements about you. Your mother is so looking forward to having you with her again. She and I are married now, and...
I won't come, Clarissa.
Don't worry, Pippa. Your home is here with your father and with me, and you're not leaving it.
No, I can assure you...
Get out of here. At once, do you hear? I won't have you in my house.
Oh, Mrs. Brown-Hosham,
Miss Peake, will you please show Mr. Costello the way through the garden to the gate onto the links?
Miss Peake.
pleased to meet you. I'm the gardener here.
Yes, I came here once before to look at some antique furniture.
Oh, yes, in Mr. Sellen's time. You can't see him today, you know, he's dead.
Yeah, well, I didn't come to see him. I came to see Mrs. Brown.
Oh, yes? Well, now you've seen her.
Goodbye, Clarissa. You will be hearing from me, you know.
This way, Mr. Costello. Did you want the bus, or did you bring your own?
I left my car out by the stables.
He'll take me away from here.
No.
I hate him. I've always hated him.
Pippa.
I don't want him to go back to Mother. I'd rather die. I'd much rather die. I'll kill him.
Pippa.
I'll kill myself then.
Oh, Pippa, control yourself. Everything's all right, I tell you. I'm here.
I don't want to go back to Mother, and I hate Oliver. He's wicked, wicked, wicked.
Oh, yes, dear, I know.
Perhaps to be struck by lightning.
Very likely. Now, pull yourself together, Pippa. Everything's quite all right. Oh, here, blow your nose. Now, you go and have your bath. Mind you have a really good wash. Your neck is absolutely filthy.
It always is. You won't let him take me away from here, will you?
Over my dead body. Oh, no, over his dead body. There, does that satisfy you? Good. Now you run along.
Hello, darling.
Oh, hello, Henry. Hasn't it been an awful day?
Has it?
Oh, have a drink?
Not just now. Who's in the house?
Why, nobody. It's the Elgins' night out. Black Thursday, you know. Cold ham, chocolate mousse. But the coffee will be really good because I shall make it.
Yes, quite well.
Is anything the matter?
Well, yes, in a way.
Oh, something wrong, Miranda?
No, nothing wrong. I should say quite the contrary. Yes, quite the contrary.
Oh, darling, do I perceive behind the impenetrable Foreign Office facade a certain human excitement?
Well, it is rather exciting in a way. As it happens, there's a slight fog in London.
Is that exciting?
No, not the fog, of course.
Well?
You'll have to keep this to yourself, Clarissa.
Yes?
It's really very secret. No one is supposed to know. Actually, you'll have to know.
Well, come on, tell me.
It's all very hush-hush. Callendorf is flying to London for a conference tomorrow.
Oh, yes, I know.
What? What do you mean you know?
Well, I read it in the paper last Sunday.
I can't see why you'd want to read these low-class papers. Anyway, the papers couldn't possibly know Callendorf was coming over. It's top secret.
My poor sweet. Top secret indeed. The things you high-ups believe.
Oh, dear. There must have been a leak.
I should have thought that by now you'd know there always is a leak. Why, I would have thought you'd be all prepared for it.
The news was only released officially tonight. Callendorf's plane is due at Heathrow at 8:40. But actually, now, Clarissa, can I trust you to be discreet?
Oh, well, I'm much more discreet than any Sunday newspaper.
The conference is tomorrow, but it'd be of great advantage if a conversation could take place first between Sir John himself and Callendorf. Now, naturally, the reporters are all waiting at Heathrow, and the moment the plane arrives, Callendorf's movements are more or less public property. But fortunately, this incipient fog has played into our hands.
Well, go on, I'm thrilled.
The plane! At the last moment, we'll find it inadvisable to land at Heathrow. It will be diverted, as is usual on these occasions, to Bindley
To
Heath.
Bindley Heath?
Yes.
That's just 15 miles from here. I see.
You're always very quick, Clarissa. Yes, I shall go off there now to the aerodrome in the car, meet Callendorf and bring him back here. Sir John is motoring down directly from London. 20 minutes should be ample for what they have to discuss. And then Callendorf will go back to London with Sir John. You know, Clarissa, this could be of great advantage to me in my career. I mean, they're reposing an awful lot of trust in me having this meeting here.
Oh, and so they should. Oh, Henry, darling, I think it's all wonderful.
By the way, Callendorf will be referred to as Mr. Jones.
Mr. Jones?
One can't be too careful about using real names.
Yes, I know, but Jones? Couldn't they have thought of anything better than that? Oh, and what about me? Do I retire to the harem, as it were, or do I bring in the drinks, utter greetings, and discreetly fade away?
You must take this seriously, dear.
Oh, but can't I take it seriously and still enjoy it a little?
I think it'd be better, perhaps, Clarissa, if you didn't appear.
Oh, all right. Oh, but what about food? Will they want something?
Oh, no, there need be no question of the meal.
Oh, well, a few sandwiches, perhaps. Ham sandwiches. Yes, in a napkin to keep them moist. Hot coffee in a thermos jug. Yes, that'll do very well. The chocolate mousse I shall take up to my bedroom to console me for being excluded from the conference.
Now, Clarissa.
Oh, darling, I am serious, really. Nothing will go wrong. I won't let it.
What about old Rowley?
Oh, he and Jeremy are dining at the clubhouse with Hugo tonight. They're going to play bridge afterwards, so they won't be back until about midnight.
And the Elgins are out?
Oh, darling, you know they always go to the cinema on Thursdays, so they won't be back till after 11.
Good, that's all quite satisfactory. Sir John and Mr.
Jones?
Quite right, darling, would have left long before then. Well, I better have a quick wash before setting off for Bindley Heath.
Oh, well, I'll go and make the sandwiches.
You must remember about the lights, Clarissa. We're making our own electricity here, not like London.
Henry, do you want a sandwich before you go?
Clarissa?
Here, do you want a sandwich before you go?
No, I think I better start.
Well, you'll be hours too early. It can't take you more than 20 minutes to motor down there.
One never knows. I might get a puncture, or something might go wrong. Oh, there you are, darling. Something might go wrong with the car.
Don't fuss, darling.
What about Pippa? She won't come down or barge in.
Oh, no, I'll go up to the schoolroom and we'll have a feast together. We'll toast tomorrow's breakfast sausages and share the chocolate mousse between us.
How good you are to Pippa. It's one of the things I'm most grateful to you for. I never can express myself very well. So much misery, and now everything is so different. You...
Oh, you go and meet your Mr. Jones. I still think it's a ridiculous name to have chosen. Oh, will you come in by the front door? Should I leave it open for you?
Oh, no, I think we'd better use the window.
Oh, all right. And do put on an overcoat, darling. It's quite chilly. Oh, and perhaps a muffler?
Yes, dear.
Yes, and do drive carefully, won't you?
Yes, dear.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Oliver.
Clarissa!
Pepper! Oh, don't look.
I didn't mean to. I really didn't mean to.
Oh, Pepper, was it you?
He's dead. He's quite dead. I didn't mean to kill him. I didn't mean to.
Oh, quiet now, quiet. Come, sit down.
I didn't mean to. I didn't mean to.
Of course you didn't mean to, darling. Now listen to me, Pippa. Pippa, listen to me. Everything's going to be all right. You've got to forget about this. Forget all about it. Do you hear?
Yes, but I...
Pippa, you must trust me and believe what I'm telling you. Everything's going to be all right. But you've got to be brave and do exactly as I tell you. Will you, Pippa? Will you do as I tell you?
Yes, I will.
That's right. Now, I want you to go upstairs and get into bed.
You come with me?
Oh, yes, I'll come soon as I can. And I'll give you a nice little white tablet and then you'll go to sleep. And in the morning, everything will seem quite different. There may be nothing to worry about.
But he's dead and he's quite dead.
Oh, no, he may not be dead. I'll see. Now, you run along, darling, and do as I tell you. Supposing I were to come down and find a dead body in the drawing room, what should I do? What am I going to do? Three spades, 4 hearts, 4 no trumps, pass. 5 diamonds, pass. 6 spades, double. And I think they go down. Let me see. Double vulnerable, 2 tricks, 500. Or shall I let them make it? No. Oh, thank goodness you've come.
What's all this about, my dear?
Oh, darlings, you've got to help me.
Oh, looks like a bridge party.
Melodramatics? What are you up to, young woman?
Oh, I'm serious. You will help me, won't you?
This will help you, but what's this all about?
And what's all this?
You're up to something, Clarissa. What is it? Found a body.
Oh, why, that's just it. I have found a body.
What do you mean, found a body?
Well, it's just as Jeremy said. I came in here and I found a body.
What are you talking about?
I'm serious. It is there. Go and look behind the sofa.
Well, she's right.
Why, it's Oliver Costello.
Yes.
What's he doing here?
Oh, he came this evening to talk about Pippa, just after you'd gone to the club.
What did he want with Pippa?
Oh, they were threatening to take her away, but all that doesn't matter now. We've very little time.
Mustn't rush this. We must have more information. What happened then?
Oh, well, I told him he wasn't having her, and he went away.
And he came back?
Obviously.
How? When?
I don't know. I just came in here, as I said, and found him there like that.
Well, he's dead, all right. Being hit on the head with something heavy and sharp. It's not going to be a very pleasant business. There's only one thing to be done. We must ring up the police.
Oh, no.
You would have done it at once, Clarissa. We can't be blamed much for that.
No, Rolly, stop.
My dear child.
I could have rung up the police myself if I'd wanted to. Why, I knew perfectly well it was the thing to do. I even started dialing. Then instead I rang you up. I asked you to come here, all 3 of you. You haven't even asked me why yet.
Leave it to us. We'll...
No, you haven't begun to understand. Oh, I want you to help me. You said you would if I was ever in trouble. Oh, darlings, you've got to help me.
Well, what do you want us to do, Clarissa?
Get rid of the body.
My dear, don't talk nonsense. This is murder.
That's the whole point. The body mustn't be found in this house.
But my dear girl, you don't know what you're talking about. You've been reading too many murder mysteries. In real life, you can't go monkeying about moving dead bodies?
Oh, well, I have moved it already. I turned him over to see if he were dead, and then I saw I'd got to have help, so I called you up. And whilst I was waiting for you, I made a plan.
Well, including the bridge table?
Oh, yes, that's going to be our alibi.
What on earth are you...
2.5 rubbers. I've imagined all the hands and put down the scores on this marker. You three must fill up the others in your own handwriting, of course.
You're mad, Clarissa, quite mad.
I've worked it out beautifully. The body has to be taken away from here. It will take 2 of you to do that. A dead body is terribly unmanageable. I've found that out already.
And where the hell do you expect us to take it?
Well, the best place, I think, would be Marsden Wood. It's just 2 miles from here. You turn off to the left a few yards after you've left the front gate. It's a side road, hardly any traffic on it. Just leave the car by the side of the road once you get into the wood and then walk back here.
What do you mean, dump the body in the wood?
Oh, no, leave it in the car. It's his car, don't you see? He left it round by the stables. Why, it's all perfectly simple. If anybody does happen to see you, it's quite a dark night and they won't know who you are. And we've got an alibi. We have all 4 been playing bridge here. Oh, but you wear gloves, of course, so as not to leave fingerprints on anything. I've got them here already.
Your talent for crime is leaving me speechless.
Well, she's got it all worked out, hasn't she?
Yeah, but it's all damn full nonsense all the same.
Oh, but we must hurry. At 9 o'clock, Henry and Mr. Jones will be here.
Mr. Jones? Who's Mr. Jones?
Oh, dear, I never realised what a lot of explaining one has to do in a murder. I thought I'd ask you to help me, and you would, and that would be all there was to it. Oh, darlings, you've got to help me. Darling Hugo.
Oh, play acting's all very well, my dear, but a dead man's a nasty, serious business. And monkeying about might land you in a real mess. You can't go carting bodies about at the dead of night.
Jeremy.
Well, I'm game.
Ugh.
What's a dead body at 2?
Stop, young man. I'll not allow this. Clarissa, you must be guided by me. There's Henry to consider too.
Oh, but it's Henry I am considering. Something terribly important is happening tonight. Henry's gone to meet someone and bring him back here. It's all very important and secret. Nobody was to know. There was to be absolutely no publicity.
Mr. Jones?
Oh, silly name, I know, but that's what they're calling him. Oh, I can't tell you about it. I promised I wouldn't say a word to anybody. But I have to make you see I'm not play acting, as Hugo called it. What effect do you think it would have on Henry's career to walk in here and find the police in charge of a murder, and the murder of the man who has just married his former wife?
Good gracious, you're not making this up, are you?
No, nobody ever believes me when I'm telling the truth.
Sorry, yes, it is a more difficult problem than I thought.
You see, the body has to be taken away from here.
Where's this car, do you say?
Oh, round by the stables.
And the servants are out, I gather?
Yes.
Right. Do I take the body to the car, or the car to the body?
Stop. We mustn't rush this.
Oh, but we must hurry.
Clarissa, I'm not sure if this plan of yours is the right one. If we can just delay finding the body until tomorrow morning, that might just suit the case, I think. If we merely move the body to another room, that might be just excusable.
It's you I've got to convince, isn't it?
Yes.
Jeremy's ready enough, and Hugo will grunt and growl and shake his head, but he'll do it all the same. It's you. Would you two just come next door for a short while? I want to speak to Rowley alone.
Rolly, don't you let her talk you into any tomfoolery.
Well, good luck.
Now,
My dear, I've always loved you and I'll love you dearly, but in this case, the answer is no.
that man's body mustn't be found in this house. If he's found in Marsden Wood, I can say he was here today for a short time, and I can also tell the police exactly when he left. Actually, Miss Peake saw him off, which turns out to be very fortunate. There need be no question of his ever having come back here. But if his body is found here, then we shall all be questioned, and Pippa won't be able to stand it.
Pippa?
She'll break down and confess.
Pippa?
Yes, she was terrified when he came here today. Oh, I told her we wouldn't let her be taken away, but I don't think she believed me. You know what she's been through, the nervous breakdown she's had. She told me she never meant to kill him, and that's true, I'm sure. It was panic. She got hold of that stick and struck out blindly.
I apologise. You win, my dear. That child mustn't be made to face the music. Get the others.
Hugo, Jeremy.
That butler of yours doesn't lock up very carefully. The window in the library was open, but I've shut it now. Well?
I'm converted.
Oh, well done.
It's
There's no time to lose. Those gloves. Now, how does this work?
Like this. Pippa showed me.
Heavy enough, weighted in their head, but I shouldn't have thought.
What shouldn't you have thought?
I should have thought it would have been something with a sharper edge, metal of some kind.
Ah, like a damned chopper.
Well, that stick looks pretty murderous to me. You can easily crack open a man's head.
Evidently. Hugo, burn that in the kitchen stove. Warrender, you and I will move the body to the car.
Okay.
Oh.
What's that?
It's the front doorbell. Who can it be? Oh, it's much too early for Henry and Mr. Jones. Oh, it must be Sir John.
Sir John, the Foreign Secretary?
Yes.
Oh, we've got to do something. Clarissa, you go and answer the door and use whatever delaying tactics you can. In the meantime, we'll clear up in here. Now, we'll get him in here, and then when we're here for the powwow, we'll get him out through the library.
Good idea. Thank you, Hugo.
Gloves.
Yeah.
Breach. Come along, Hugo. Come along, Hugo.
Hurry up, Hugo.
It's the police, Uncle Rowley.
Sorry to intrude, gentlemen, but we've received information that a murder's been committed here.
A murder?
Isn't it extraordinary?
We had a telephone call at the station. Good evening, Mr. Birch.
Good evening, Inspector.
I think someone's been hoaxing you, Inspector.
Right, we've been playing bridge here all evening. Who did they say had been murdered?
No names were mentioned. The caller just said that a man had been murdered at Coppleston Court and would come along immediately. They rang off before any additional information could be obtained.
Oh, it must have been a hoax. What a wicked thing to do.
You'd be surprised, madam, at the potty things people do. Well, now, according to you, nothing out of the ordinary has happened here this evening. So I'd better see Mr. Helshenbrown as well.
Oh, he's not home. I don't expect him back until late tonight.
I see. Who is there in the house?
Oh, well, Sir Rowland Delahaye, Mr. Birch, you know, Mr. Warrender, and my little stepdaughter. She's in bed and asleep.
What about servants?
Oh, it's their night out. They're at the pictures in Maidstone.
I see.
Would you be wanting anything, madam?
I thought you were at the pictures, Elgin.
We returned almost immediately. My wife wasn't feeling well. Gastric troubles. Is anything wrong?
What's your name?
Elgin, I'm sure I hope there's
Someone
nothing
rang up the station and said that a murder had been committed here.
A murder?
What do you know about that?
Nothing, sir. Nothing at all.
Wasn't you who rang up?
No, indeed.
You came in by the back door, I suppose?
Yes, sir.
Notice anything unusual?
Now that I think of it, there was a strange car standing in the stables.
Strange car?
I wondered at the time whose it might be. It seemed a curious place to leave it.
Anybody in it?
Not so far as I could see, sir.
Go and take a look at it, Jones.
Jones?
I beg your pardon?
Oh, nothing. Just, I didn't think he looked very Welsh.
Seems that someone called here tonight who was unaccounted for. You weren't expecting anyone?
Oh, Oh, no, we didn't want anyone. Why, you see, it was just the four of us for bridge.
Oh, I'm fond of a game of bridge myself.
Oh, are you? Do you play Blackwood?
I just like a common sense game. You haven't been here very long, have you, Mrs. Helsham Brown?
Oh, no, about 6 weeks.
And there's been no funny business of any kind since you've been here?
What do you mean by funny business, Inspector?
It's rather a curious story, sir. This house belonged to Mr. Sellon, the antique dealer. He died 6 months ago.
Oh, yes, he had some kind of accident, didn't he?
That's right. Fell downstairs, pitched on his head. Accidental death they brought in. Might have been that. Might not.
Oh, you mean someone might have pushed him?
That or somebody hit him a crack on the head and arranged him to look right at the bottom of the stairs.
Oh, these stairs here?
No, at the shop. No evidence, of course, but he was rather a dark horse, Mr. Sellon.
In what way, Inspector?
Once or twice he had a couple of things to explain, as you might say. And the narcotic squad came down and had a word with him once. It was all only suspicion.
Officially, that is to say?
That's right, sir, officially.
Whereas unofficially?
I'm afraid can't mention that. But there was one rather curious circumstance. There was an unfinished letter on Mr. Sellon's desk in which he mentioned that he'd come into possession of something which he described as an unparalleled rarity, which you would guarantee wasn't a forgery. He was asking £14,000 for it.
£14,000? Why, that's a lot of money. I wonder what it could be. Jewellery, I suppose, but the word forgery. Picture, perhaps?
Yes, there was nothing in the shop worth such a sum of money. The insurance inventory made that clear. Mr. Sellon's partner was a woman who has a business on her own in London. She wrote and said she couldn't give us any help.
So Sellon might have been murdered and the article, whatever it was, stolen?
It's possible. Then again, the would-be thief mayn't have been able to find it.
Why do you think that?
Because the shop has been broken into twice since then. Broken into, ransacked.
And why are you telling us all this, Inspector?
Because, Mrs. Helsham Brown, it's occurred to me that whatever was hidden away by Sellon may have been hidden here, not at the shop in Maidstone. That's why I asked you if anything peculiar had come to your notice.
Well, you know, someone rang up today and asked to speak to me, and when I came to the phone, whoever it was just rang off. In a way, that's rather odd. Oh, and of course, that man who called the other day, you know, the horsey sort of man in a check suit, he wanted to buy things. Oh, he wanted to buy that desk.
This one here?
Yes. I told him it wasn't ours and couldn't sell it, but he simply wouldn't believe me, and he offered a large sum, far more than it's worth.
Interesting. These things often have a secret drawer.
Oh, yes, this one has, but there was nothing very exciting in it, only some old autographs.
Yes, Jones?
I've examined the car, sir. Pair of gloves in the driving seat. And a registration book in the side pocket.
Oliver Costello, 27 Morgan Mansions, SW3. There's a man called Costello been here today.
Oh, yes, he was here at about 6:30.
Friend of yours?
Oh, no, I wouldn't call him a friend exactly. I had met him once or twice. Well, it's a little awkward.
Perhaps I better explain the situation, Inspector. It's regarding the first Mrs. Helsham Brown. There was a divorce over a year ago, and she recently married Oliver Costello.
I see, and Mr. Costello came here today. Why? By appointment?
Oh, no. As a matter of fact, when Miranda left, she took with her one or two things that weren't really hers. Oliver happened to be in this part of the world, and he just looked in to return them.
What kind of things?
Nothing very important. This was one of them. It belonged to my husband's mother, and he values it for sentimental reasons.
How long did Mr. Costello remain?
Oh, a very short time. He said he was in a hurry. About 10 minutes, I should think.
And your interview was quite amicable?
Oh, yes. I thought it was very kind of him to take the trouble to return the things.
Did he mention where he was going when he left here?
Oh, no. Actually, he went out by that window. As a matter of fact, my lady gardener was here, and she offered to show him out through the garden.
Your gardener? Does she live on the premises?
Oh, yes, she lives in the cottage.
I think I should like a word with her. Jones?
Oh, well, there's a telephone connection through to the cottage. Should I get her for you, Inspector?
If you'd be so kind, Mrs. Helsham Brown.
Not at all. I shouldn't think she'll have gone to bed yet. Hello? Yes, Miss Peake, this is Mrs. Helsham Brown. Would you mind coming over? Something rather important has happened. Oh, yes, that will be quite all right, thank you. She's been washing her hair, but she'll dress and come right over.
Thank you. He may have mentioned where he was going.
Yes, he may have.
Question is, why is Mr. Costello's car still here? Where is Mr. Costello? Apparently Miss Peake was the last person to see him. He left, you say, by that window. Did you lock it after him?
No.
Oh,
Oh, I don't think so.
so he might have re-entered that way. I think, Mrs. Hailsham-Brown, that with your permission I should like to search the house.
Oh, well, of course. Well, you've seen this room. Nobody could be hidden here. No. Look. Through here is the library. Would you like to go there?
Thank you. Jones? To see where that door leads to, Jones.
Very good, sir.
What's on the other side?
Bookshelves.
Just through to the hallway, sir.
Right. Now we'll search the rest of the house.
Oh, I'll come with you if you don't mind, in case my little stepdaughter should wake and be frightened. Oh, not that I think she will. It's extraordinary how deeply children sleep. You have to fairly shake them awake. Have you got any children, Inspector?
Boy and girl.
Oh, isn't that nice?
Well, now what?
I don't like this. We're in deep.
If you ask me, there's only one thing to do. Come clean. Own up now before it's too late.
No, damn it. We can't do that. It'd be too unfair to Clarissa.
We'll get her into a worse mess if we go on like this. How the heck are we going to get the body away? The police will impound the fellow's car.
We'll use mine.
Oh, and I don't like it. I don't like it at all. Damn it, I'm a local JP. What do you say, Rolly? You've got a good level head.
Personally, I'm committed to the enterprise.
I don't understand you.
Take it on trust if you will. We're in a bad jam, all of us. But if we stick together and we have a little luck, we can pull this off. Once the police are satisfied that Costello isn't in the house, they'll look elsewhere. There's plenty of reasons why he would have left his car and gone on foot. And I don't see why suspicion should attach itself to us. We're all respectable people. Hugo, you're a JP. Henry's in the Foreign Office.
Yes, and I suppose you've had a blameless, living, distinguished career. All right, then. We brazen it out.
Shouldn't we do something about that straight away?
No, not now. No time. They'll be back soon.
I must say, Clarissa's a marvel. Doesn't turn her hair. She's got that police inspector eating out of her hand.
That'd be Miss Peake. Go and let her in, Warrender.
Rolly? What's up, Rolly? What did that girl tell you when she got you to yourself?
Good evening, Miss Peake.
Good evening, Mr. Warrender.
I think you better come in here.
What is all this? Mrs. Brown Howsham was most mysterious on the phone. Has anything happened?
Sorry being routed out like this, Miss Peake. Do sit down.
Oh, thank you.
As a matter of fact, we have the police here, and...
Police? Has there been a burglary?
Oh, no, nothing but...
Oh, Inspector, this is Miss Peake.
Good evening, Miss Peake.
Good evening, Inspector. I was just asking Sir Roland, has there been a robbery? Or what?
We received a rather peculiar telephone call which brought us out here. We think you could probably clear up the matter for us.
Oh, this is mysterious.
Concerns Mr. Costello, Mr. Oliver Costello of 27 Morgan Mansions, Chelsea.
Never heard of him.
He was here this evening visiting Mrs. Hailsham-Brown, and I believe you showed him out through the garden.
Oh, that man, yes. Mrs. Hailsham-Brown did mention his name. Yes, what do you want to know?
I should like to know exactly what happened and when you last saw him.
Let me see. We went out through this window here, and I said, did he want the bus? And he said no. He'd brought his car and he'd left it round by the stables.
Rather an odd place to leave a car.
Just what I thought. You'd think you'd just drive right up to the front door, wouldn't you? People are so odd.
And then?
Well, he went off to his car, and I suppose he drove away.
You didn't see him do so?
No, I was putting my tools away.
And that's the last you saw of him?
Yes, why?
His car is still here. Call was put through to the police station at 7:49, saying a man had been murdered at Coppleston Court.
Murdered? Here? Ridiculous.
That's what everybody seems to think.
Of course, I know there are all these maniacs about attacking women, but you say a man was murdered?
You didn't hear a car this evening?
Only Mr. Brown Hailsham's.
Mr. Hailsham-Brown? Thought he wasn't expected home until late.
Oh, my husband did come home, but he had to leave again almost immediately.
Oh, that's so. Exactly when did he come home?
Oh, let me see. It was about
a quarter of an hour before I went off duty. I work a lot of overtime, Inspector. Never stick to regulation hours. Be keen on your job, that's what I say. Yes, it was about 7:15 when Mr. Hailsham-Brown got in.
Surely after Mr. Costello left. They probably passed each other.
Oh, you mean he may have come back to speak to Mr. Hailsham-Brown?
Oh, Oliver definitely didn't come back to the house.
Oh, but you can't be sure of that, Mrs. Hailsham-Brown. He might have got in by that window without your knowing anything about it. Oh, golly. You don't think he murdered Mr. Howsham Brown, do you? Oh, I say, I am sorry.
Of course he didn't murder Henry.
Where did your husband go when he left here?
I've no idea.
Doesn't he usually say where he's going?
Oh, I never ask questions. Why, I think it must be so boring for a man if his wife is always asking questions.
Oh, but of course. If that man's car is still here, then he must be the one who's been murdered.
There's no reason to believe anyone's been murdered, Miss Peake. In fact, the inspector thinks it's all just a silly hoax.
Oh, but the car. I do think the car is very suspicious. Have you looked about for the body, Inspector?
He searched the house, Miss Peake.
I'm sure those Elgins have something to do with it. I've had my suspicions of them all along. I saw a light in their bedroom window as I came along here just now. And that in itself is suspicious. It's their night out. And they usually don't return until past 11. Have you searched their quarters? Now, listen. Suppose this Mr. Costello recognised Elgin as a man with a criminal record. He might decide to come back and warn Mrs. Howsham Brown. And then Elgin assaulted him. Then Elgin would have to dispose of the body quickly so he could dispose of it properly later in the night. Now, where would he hide it, I wonder? Behind a curtain?
Oh, really, Miss Peake? There isn't anybody hidden behind any of the curtains, and I'm sure Elgin would never murder anybody. It's quite ridiculous.
Oh, you're so trusting, Mrs. Howsham Brown. When you're my age, you'll realise how often people are not quite what they seem. Now then, where would a man like Elgin hide the body? Well, there's that cupboard place between here and the library. You've looked there, I suppose.
He's looked both here and in the library, Miss Peake.
Just what do you mean by that cupboard place, Miss Peake?
Oh, it's a wonderful place when you're playing sardines. You'd really never dream it was there. Look, I'll show you.
Oh, no! There's nothing there now. I know because I went that way through to the library just now.
Oh, well, in that case.
Just show me all the same. I'd like to see.
It was a door originally, matched this one over here. Look, you pull this catch back and the door comes open like... Oh! 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 Oh!
So there was a murder here tonight. Yes, yes. What's that? Hit and run? Where? Oh, I see. Yes, we'll send them along as soon as you can. Yes, we'll want photographs. Yes, the whole bag of tricks. Everything comes at once. Weeks go by and nothing happens, and now the Division of Surgeons out at a smash on the London Road. It'll all mean a bit of a delay. However, we'll get on as best we can until the MO arrives. Better not move him until they've taken the photographs. Not that it would tell us anything. Wasn't killed there. It's put there afterwards. You can see where his feet have dragged.
How are you feeling, my dear?
Better.
Might be as well to close the bookcase door. We don't want any more hysterics.
Right, sir.
Mrs. Howsham Brown has had a rather bad shock. I think she ought to go up to her room and lie down.
Certainly, in a moment or two. Just like to ask her a few questions first.
She's not fit to be questioned.
Oh, I'm all right. Really, I am.
It's very brave of you, my dear, but I think wiser not.
Oh, dear Uncle Rowley. He's so sweet to me always.
Yes, I can see that.
Oh, but do ask me anything you want to, Inspector. Though actually I can't help you, I'm afraid, because I just don't know anything at all.
We shan't worry you much, madam. Will you join the other gentlemen, sir?
I think I ought to stay here just in case.
I'll call you if it should be necessary. Now, Mrs. Howsham Brown, if you're ready.
Dear Uncle Rowley, he always wants to spare me everything. This isn't going to be the 3rd degree, is it, Inspector?
Nothing of that kind. Just a few simple questions. Are you ready, Jones?
Ready, sir.
Now, Mrs. Howsham Brown, you had no idea there was a body concealed in that recess?
Oh, no, of course not. It was horrible, quite horrible.
When we were searching this room, why didn't you draw our attention to that recess?
Do you know, the thought never struck me. Well, you see, we never use it, so it never entered my head.
You said you had just been through that way into the library.
Oh, no, you must have misunderstood me. What I meant was that door.
I certainly misunderstood you. Now, you've You've no idea when Mr. Costello came back to this house or what he came for?
I simply can't imagine.
The fact remains that he did come back.
Yes, of course.
He must have had some reason.
I suppose so.
Perhaps he wanted to see your husband.
Oh, no, I'm sure he didn't. Henry and he never liked each other.
Oh, had there been a quarrel between them?
Oh, no, they hadn't quarrelled. Henry just thought he wore the wrong shoes. You know how odd men are.
He didn't come back here to see you?
Oh, me? Oh, no, I'm sure he didn't.
Is there anybody else in the house he may have wanted to see?
I can't think whom. Well, I mean, who is there?
Oliver Costello comes here, turns the articles which at first Mrs. Helshenbrown had taken away. He says goodbye, then comes back here, presumably through this window. He is killed. His body is pushed into that recess, all in a space of about 10-20 minutes. Nobody hears anything.
I know. It really is extraordinary.
You're sure you didn't hear anything?
Nothing. It really is fantastic.
Almost too fantastic. That's all for the present, Mrs. Helshenbrown. Not that way.
Oh, I think really I'd rather join the others.
Later. Oh, where's the other woman, Miss Peake?
Put her in the spare room bed. After she came in hysterics, that is. Laughing, crying. Terrible she was.
Doesn't matter if Mrs. H.B. goes and talks to her, but not to those three there. We'll have no comparing of stories, no prompting. You locked the door from the library to the hall?
Yes, sir, and I've got the key right here.
Good. We'll take them one at a time. But first I'll have a word with that butler chap.
Elgin?
Yes. Call him in. I've an idea he knows something.
Right, sir. Elgin, would you mind coming in here, please?
Sit down, Elgin. Now, you started off with the pictures this evening, but you came back. Why was that?
I've told you, sir. My wife wasn't feeling well.
It was you who let Mr. Costello into the house when he called here this evening?
Yes, sir.
Why didn't you tell us at once that it was Mr. Costello's car outside?
I didn't know, sir. Mr. Costello didn't drive up the front door. I didn't know he'd come in a car.
Rather peculiar, eh?
Yes, sir. I expected his reasons.
So what do you mean by that?
Nothing. Nothing at all.
Wasn't because of Mr. Costello that you came back to the house? You ever seen Mr. Costello before?
Never, sir.
Wasn't because of Mr. Costello that you came back to the house this evening?
I've told you, sir. My wife wasn't
I don't want to
feeling
hear
well.
anything more about your wife. Now, how long have you been with Mrs. Helshenbrown?
6 weeks, sir.
Before that?
I'd been having a little rest.
A rest? You realise that in a case like this, your references will have to be looked into very carefully.
Would that be... I wouldn't wish to deceive you, sir. It wasn't anything really wrong. What I mean is, the original reference having got torn. I couldn't quite remember the wording.
So you wrote your own references, that's what it comes to.
I didn't mean any harm. I've got my living to earn.
At the moment, I'm not interested in fake references. I want to know what happened here tonight, what you know about Oliver Costello.
I'd never set eyes on him before. But I have a good idea of why he came here.
Why?
Blackmail. He has something on her.
On Mrs. Helshenbrown?
Yes. I came in to ask if there was anything more, and I heard them.
What did you hear exactly?
I heard her say, "But that's blackmail. I'll not submit to it."
Anything more?
No. They stopped when I came in, and when I went out, they dropped their voices.
I see.
You'll not be hard on me, sir. I've had a lot of trouble one way and another.
Get out.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Blackmail, eh?
And Miss Helshenbrown is a nice-seeming lady.
I'll see Mr. Birch now.
Right, sir. Mr. Birch, please. This way, sir.
Come in, Mr. Birch. Sit down here, please. Very unpleasant business, I'm afraid, sir. What have you to say about it?
Nothing.
Nothing?
Well, what do you expect me to say? The blinking woman snaps open the blinking cupboard, and out falls a blinking corpse. Took my breath away. I've not got over it yet. There's no good asking me anything because I don't know anything.
That your statement, is it? You know nothing at all about it?
I'm telling you, I didn't kill the fellow. I didn't even know him.
You didn't know him, but you'd heard of him?
Yes, and I heard he was a nasty bit of goods.
In what way?
Well, I don't know, the sort of fellow that women liked and men had no use for. That sort of thing.
You'd no idea why he should come back to the house a second time this evening?
Not a clue.
Anything between him and the present Mrs. Hailsham Brown, do you think?
Clarissa? Good heavens, no. Nice girl, Clarissa. Got a lot of sense. Wouldn't look twice at a fellow like that.
So you can't help us.
Sorry, there it is.
You'd no idea there was a body concealed in that recess?
Of course not.
Thank you, sir.
What?
That's all. Thank you, sir.
This way, Mr. Birch. He was a mine of information, wasn't he? Well, mind you, not very nice for a JP to be mixed up in a murder.
Delahaye, Sir Roland Edward Mark, KCB, MVO.
What have you got there? Who's who?
Educated Eton, Trinity College, touched Foreign Office, Second Secretary Madrid, Plenipotentiary,
Oh.
Constantinople Foreign Office, Special Commission rendered, clubs, boodles, whites.
Would you like to speak to him next, sir?
No, I'll save him to the last. I'll have young Warrender.
Mr. Warrender, please.
Sit down. Your name,
Jeremy Warrender.
address,
340 Broad Street and 34 Grosvenor Square. Country address, Heppleston, Wiltshire.
gentleman of independent means.
No, I'm private secretary to Lazarus Stein. Those are his addresses.
How long have you been with him?
About a year.
Did you know this man, Oliver Costello?
I've never heard of him till tonight.
You didn't see him when he came to the house earlier this evening?
No, I'd gone over to the golf club with the others. We were dining there, you see. It was a service night out, and Mr. Birch had asked us to dine with him at the club.
Was Mrs. Hailsham Brown asked too?
No. Well, I mean, she could have come if she liked.
She was asked then and she refused?
No. What I mean is, well, Hailsham Brown is usually quite tired when he gets down here. And so Clarissa said they'd just have a scratch meal here, as usual.
So Mrs. Hailsham Brown expected her husband to dine here? She didn't expect him to go out again as soon as he came in?
Really, I don't know. No. I believe she did say he was going to be out this evening.
Seems odd then that Mrs. Hailsham Brown should not come out to the club instead of remaining here to dine all by herself.
Well, I mean, it was the kid. Pippi, you know. Clarissa wouldn't have liked to go out to leave the kid all by herself in the house.
Or perhaps she was making plans to receive a visitor of her own.
I say, that's a rotten thing to say. And it isn't true. I'm sure she never planned anything of the kind.
Yet Oliver Costello came here to meet someone. Servants are out, Miss Peake has her own cottage. There's really no one he could have come to the house to meet, except Mrs. Hailsham Brown.
All I can say is, you ask her.
I have asked her.
And what did she say?
Just as you say, Mr. Warrender.
Oh, there you are.
Now tell me how you all happened to come back here from the club. Is that the original plan?
Yes. I mean, no.
Which do you mean, sir?
Well, it was like this. We all went over to the golf club. Roland and old Hugo went straight into the dining room. I came in a bit later. It's all a cold buffet, you know. We'd been knocking balls about till it got dark, and then, well, somebody said, bridge. And then I said, well, why not come back and play here? And so we did.
I see. It was your idea.
I don't know who suggested it first. Hugo Birch, I think.
And you arrived back here when?
I can't say exactly. Maybe just a bit before 8.
And it's what, 5 minutes walk?
Just about. The golf course adjoins the garden.
And then you played bridge.
Yes.
That must have been about 20 minutes before my arrival. Surely you hadn't time to complete 2 rubbers and start a third.
What? Oh no, that first rubber must have been yesterday's score.
Only one person seems to have scored.
Yes, we were all a little lazy about scoring. We left to Clarissa.
Did you know about the passageway between this room and the library?
You mean the place the body was found?
That's what I mean.
No, I had no idea. A wonderful bit of camouflage. You'd never guess.
Consequently, you couldn't know there was a body concealed in there, could you?
You could have run me with the feathers, the saying goes. Absolute blood and thunder melodrama. Couldn't believe my eyes.
Are these your gloves, Mr. Warrender?
No?
You were wearing them when you came back from the club this evening?
Yes, there's a bit of nip in the air this evening.
I think you're mistaken. These have Mr. Hailsham Brown's initials inside them.
Ah, funny. I've got a pair just the same.
These, perhaps.
But you didn't catch me a second time. After all, one pair of gloves looks exactly like another.
3 pairs of gloves. All with Hailsham Brown's initials inside them. Curious.
Well, it is his house after all. Why shouldn't he have 3 pairs of gloves lying about?
The only interesting thing is that you thought one of them might have been yours. And I think that your gloves are just sticking out of your pocket now. No, the other pocket.
Yes. Yes, so they are.
They're not really very like these, are they?
Actually, these are my golfing gloves.
Thank you, Mr. Warrender. That's all for now.
Now look here. You don't think that
I don't think what?
Nothing.
Stein, Sir Lazarus, Chairman of Saxon-Arabian Ore Company, Gulf Petroleum Company, clubs, recreations, stamp collecting, golf, fishing, address 340 Broad Street, 34 Grosvenor Square. What have you got there?
Card, sir. Under there, under the sofa.
The Ace of Spades. Very interesting card. Here, wait a minute. Red. Same pack. Well, well. No Ace of Spades. Now that's very remarkable, don't you think, Jones?
Very remarkable indeed, sir.
Now we'll have Sir Roland Delahaye.
Sir Roland Delahaye.
Sir Roland, sit down, please. You are Sir Roland Delahaye. Your address?
Long Paddock, Littlewich Green, Lincolnshire. Couldn't you find it, Inspector?
Now, if you please, I'd like your account of the evening, after you left here shortly before 7.
Well, it'd been raining all day and it had finally cleared up. And we'd arranged to go to the golf club as it was the servants' night out. So we did that. And just as we were finishing dinner, Mrs. Hailsham Brown rang up and suggested that as her husband had gone out, that we 3 should come back here and make up a 4 for bridge. We did so. About 20 minutes after we started, you arrived. The rest you know.
It's not quite Mr. Warrender's account of the matter.
Indeed, how did he put it?
He said that the suggestion to come back here and play bridge came from one of you 3. Mr. Birch, he thought.
Ah, but you see, young Warrender came in rather late to the dining room. He didn't realise that Mrs. Hailsham Brown had already rung up. Now, you would know better than I do, Inspector, how rarely 2 people's account of the same thing ever agrees. In fact, if 3 to agree exactly, I'd regard it as suspicious. Very suspicious indeed.
I'd like to discuss the case with you, sir, if I may.
How very agreeable of you.
The dead man, Oliver Costello, came to this house with some particular object in view. Do you agree to that, sir?
He came to return objects that Mrs. Miranda Hailsham Brown had taken away in error.
That may have been an excuse, sir, though I'm not even sure of that. But it's not the real reason that brought him here.
You may be right, I can't say.
He came perhaps to see a particular person. May have been you, may have been Mr. Warrender, may have been Mr. Birch.
Yes. He might have been. But if he'd wanted to see Mr. Birch, he would have gone to his house. He wouldn't have come here.
It is probably so. Therefore, that leaves us with the choice of 4 people. You, Mr. Warrender, Mr. Helsham Brown and Mrs. Helsham Brown. Now, how well did you know Oliver Costello?
Hardly at all. I met him once or twice, that's all.
Where did you meet him?
Twice at the Howsham Browns in London a year ago, and once at a restaurant, I believe.
Which had no reason for wishing to murder him?
Now, is that an accusation, Inspector?
No, Sir Roland. I should call it more an elimination. I don't think you have any motive for doing away with Oliver Costello. That leaves 3 people.
Sounds like a variant of 10 Little Soldier Boys.
We'll take Mr. Warrender. How well do you know him?
I met him for the first time 2 days ago. He seems a very agreeable young man, well-bred, well-educated. I know nothing about him, but I should say an unlikely murderer.
So much for Mr. Warrender. That brings me to my next question.
How well do I know Henry Howsham Brown, and how well do I know Mrs. Howsham Brown? Henry Howsham Brown I know quite well. He's an old friend. Of Clarissa, I know all there is to know. She's my ward and inexpressibly dear to me.
Yes, sir, I think that answer makes certain things very clear.
Does it indeed?
Why did you change your plans this evening? Why did you come back here and pretend to play bridge?
Pretend?
This card was found on the other side of the room, under the sofa. I can hardly believe you would have played 2 rubbers of bridge and started a third, with a pack of 51 cards and the ace of spades missing.
Yes, I suppose it would be a bit difficult to believe.
I also think that 3 pairs of Mr. Howsham Brown's gloves need a certain amount of explanation.
I'm afraid you won't get any explanation from me, Inspector.
No, sir. I take it you're out to do your best for a certain lady. It's not a bit of good, sir. Truth will out.
I wonder.
Mrs. Howsham Brown knew the body was in that recess. Whether you helped her, or whether she dragged it there herself, I don't know. But she knew. Now, I suggest that Oliver Costello came here to see Mrs. Howsham Brown and to obtain money from her by threats.
Threats? Threats of what?
That will come out, no doubt. Mrs. Howsham Brown is young and attractive, gay. If Mr. Costello was attractive to the ladies, they say. Now, Mrs. Howsham Brown is newly married.
Stop. I must set you straight on certain matters. You can easily confirm what I tell you. Henry Howsham Brown's first marriage was unfortunate. His wife was a beautiful woman, but unbalanced and neurotic. Her health and disposition degenerated to such an alarming state that her little daughter had to be removed to a nursing home. Yes, it was an unfortunate mess. It had appeared that she'd become a drug addict. How she obtained those drugs was not found out, but it was a fair guess that it was from that man, Oliver Costello. She was infatuated with him and finally ran away with him. Henry allowed her to divorce him. He's old-fashioned in his views. He's now found peace and happiness in his marriage to Clarissa. And there's nothing I can swear with which is in Clarissa's history that he could possibly threaten her with. Don't you think you might be on the wrong tack altogether, Inspector? Why are you so certain that it was a person he came to see? Why not a place?
What do you mean, sir?
Well, when you were telling us about the late Mr. Sellon, you said that he'd been questioned by the narcotics squad. Is there a possible connection there? Drugs? Sellon's house? Costello had been to this house once or twice to look at some antique furniture. Supposing he wanted something in this house, in that desk. There was a curious incident of somebody offering an exorbitant price for that desk. Supposing he wanted that desk, search it, examine if you will, and somebody followed him down here, and that same someone struck him down there by the desk.
There's a great deal of supposition.
I think a reasonable hypothesis.
The hypothesis being that this somebody put the body in the recess?
Exactly.
That would mean someone who knew about the recess.
Knew about the house in Sellon's time.
Yes, that's all very well, sir, but it still doesn't explain one thing.
What's that?
Mrs. Howsham Brown knew the body was in that recess. She tried to prevent us looking there. It's no good trying to convince me otherwise. She knew.
Inspector, will you allow me to speak to my ward?
Only in my presence, sir.
That will do.
Jones.
We are in your hands, Inspector. Please make what allowances you can.
This way, Mrs. Hailsham-Brown.
Clarissa, will you do what I ask you to do? Tell the inspector the truth.
The truth.
The truth. It's the only thing to do.
Sit down, Mrs. Hailsham-Brown.
I'm sorry. I'm terribly sorry I told you all those lies. I didn't mean to. One gets into things, if you know what I mean.
I can't say that I do know. Now, give me the facts, please.
Well, it's really all quite simple. Oliver left, then Henry came home, then he went off again in the car, then I came in here with the sandwiches.
Sandwiches?
Oh, yes, you see, my husband is bringing home a very important delegate from abroad.
Oh, who is this delegate?
A Mr. Jones.
I beg your pardon?
They were going to have sandwiches while they talked, and I was going to have mousse in the schoolroom.
Moose in the... Yes, I see.
I put the sandwiches down there, and then I began tidying up, and I went to put a book back in the bookshelf, and then, well, I practically fell over it.
You fell over the body?
Yes, it was here behind the sofa, and I looked to see if he was dead, and he was. It was Mr. Costello, and I didn't know what to do. In the end, I rang up the golf club and asked Sir Roland, Mr. Birch and Jeremy Warrender to come over.
It didn't occur to you to ring up the police?
Oh, yes, it occurred to me, but then, well, I didn't.
You didn't? Why not?
Oh, well, I didn't think it would be nice for my husband. I don't know if you know many people in the Foreign Office, Inspector, but they're frightfully unassuming. Why, they like everything very quiet, not noticeable. And you must admit that murders are noticeable.
Quite so.
I'm so glad you understand. Oh, I mean, he was quite dead because I felt his pulse, so we couldn't do anything for him. Well, what I mean is, he might just as well be dead in Marston Wood as in our drawing room.
Marston Wood? Where's Marston Wood come into it?
Oh, that's where I was thinking of putting him.
Oh. Mrs. Hailsham-Brown, have you never heard that a dead body, if there's any suggestion of foul play, should never be moved?
Oh, of course I know that. It says so in all the detective stories. But you see, this is real life. Well, I mean, real life's quite different.
Do you realise the seriousness of what you're saying?
Oh, of course I do, and I'm telling you the truth. And so you see, in the end, I rang up the club and they all came over.
And you persuaded them to hide the body in that recess?
No, that came later. My plan, as I told you, was that they should take Oliver's body away in his car and leave the car in Marston Wood.
And they agreed?
They agreed.
Frankly, Mrs. Hailsham-Brown, I don't believe a word of it. I don't believe that three reputable men would agree to obstruct the course of justice in such a manner for such a paltry cause.
Well, I knew you wouldn't believe me if I told you the truth. What do you believe, then?
I can only see one reason why those three men should agree to lie.
Oh, you mean...
If they believed or knew that you had killed him.
But I had no reason for killing him, absolutely no reason. Oh, I knew you'd react this way. That's why...
That's why what?
All right, I'll tell you.
I think it would be wiser.
Yes, I suppose I'd better tell you the truth.
I can assure you, madam, telling the police a pack of lies will do you very little good, Mrs. Hailsham-Brown. You'd better tell me the real story.
I will. Oh dear, I thought I was being so clever.
Much better not to try to be clever. Now, what really happened here this evening?
It all started as I explained. I'd said goodbye to Oliver, and he'd gone off with Miss Peake. I had no idea he was going to come back again, and I still can't understand why he did. Then Henry came home, explaining that he'd have to go out again immediately. He went off in the car, and it was just after I shut the front door and made sure it was latched and bolted that I suddenly began to feel nervous.
Nervous? Why?
I'm not usually nervous, but it occurred to me that I'd never been alone in the house at night.
Well?
Well, I told myself not to be so silly. I said, you've got the phone, haven't you? You can always ring for help. I said to myself, burglars don't come at this time of the evening, they come in the middle of the night. But I still kept thinking I heard footsteps somewhere. And noises up in my bedroom, a door closing. I thought I'd better do something.
Yes?
Well, I went into the kitchen and made the sandwiches for Henry and Mr. Jones to have when they got back. I'd got them all ready on a plate, with a napkin round them to keep them soft, and I was just coming across the hall to put them in here when I really heard something.
Where?
In this room. Well, I knew this time I wasn't imagining it. I heard drawers being pulled open and shut, and I suddenly remembered the window in here wasn't locked. Somebody had come in that way.
Go on, Mrs. Helshaw-Brown.
Oh, well, I was petrified. I didn't know what to do. And then I thought, supposing I'm just being a fool? Supposing it is Henry come back for something, or Sir Roland, or one of the others? Why, a nice fool I'd look if I went upstairs and telephoned to the police on the extension. So then I thought of a plan.
Yes?
I went to the hall stand. I took the heaviest stick I could find. I went into the library. I didn't turn the light on. I felt my way across the room to that recess. I opened it very gently and slipped inside. Well, I thought I could just ease the door into here and see who it was. Why, unless anybody knew about it, you'd never dream there was a door just there.
No, you certainly wouldn't.
I eased the catch open, and then my fingers slipped. The door swung right open and hit against the wall. A man who was standing by the desk straightened up. I saw something bright and shining in his hand. Oh, I thought it was a revolver. I thought he was going to shoot me. I hit out at him with a stick with all my might, and he fell. Oh. Can I have some brandy, please?
Yes, Jones. Do you feel able to continue, Mrs. Helshaw-Brown?
Yes. You're very kind. The man just lay there. He didn't move. I switched on the light, and I saw then that it was Oliver Costello. He was dead. It was terrible. I couldn't understand. I mean, what was he doing there, tampering with the desk? It was all like some ghastly nightmare. Oh, I was so frightened I rang up the golf club. I wanted my guardian. They all came over. I begged them to help me, to take the body away, somewhere.
But why?
Oh, because I was a coward, a miserable coward. Oh, I was frightened of the publicity of having to go to a police court. Oh, it would be so bad for my husband and for his career. Oh, well, if it had really been a burglar, perhaps I could have gone through with it, but being somebody we actually knew, somebody who was married to Henry's first wife, oh, I just felt I couldn't go through with it.
Perhaps because the dead man had, a short while before, attempted to blackmail you?
Blackmail me? Oh, nonsense. That's just silly. There's nothing anybody could blackmail me about.
Elgin the butler overheard a mention of blackmail.
I don't believe he heard anything of the kind. Why, he couldn't. If you ask me, he's making the whole thing up.
Come now, Mrs. Helshaw-Brown. Do you deliberately tell me the word blackmail was never mentioned?
I swear it wasn't. I assure you. Oh, how silly. Oh, of course, that was it.
You've remembered.
Oh, well, it was nothing, really. It was just that Oliver was saying something about the rent of furnished houses being absurdly high, and I said we'd been amazingly lucky with this place and were only paying 4 guineas a week. And he said, I can hardly believe it, Clarissa. It must be blackmail. And I laughed and said, that's it, blackmail. Just a silly, joking way of talking. Why, I didn't even remember it.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Helshaw-Brown, but I really can't believe that.
Oh, can't believe what?
That you're only paying 4 guineas a week furnished here.
You really are the most unbelieving man I ever met. You don't seem to believe a single thing I've said to you this evening. Most things I can't prove, but this one I can, and this time I'm going to show you. Here we are. Oh, no, it isn't. Here it is. Here's the agreement for a furnished tenancy. It's with a firm of solicitors acting for the executors, and see, 4 guineas per week.
Well, I'm blessed. It's extraordinary, quite extraordinary.
Well, don't you think, Inspector, that you ought to beg my pardon?
I apologise, Mrs. Helshaw-Brown, but it really is extremely odd.
Why?
It so happens a lady and gentleman were down here with orders to view this house, and the lady happened to lose a very valuable brooch. She called in the police station to give particulars, and she happened to mention this house. She said they were asking an absurd price. She thought 18 guineas a week for a house right in the country and miles from anywhere was ridiculous. I agreed with her.
That is extraordinary. Very extraordinary. Oh, I see why you were so sceptical. But perhaps now you believe some of the other things I have said to you.
I'm not doubting your final story, Mrs. Helsham Brown. We usually know the truth when we hear it. I knew too that there would have to be some serious reason for those three gentlemen to cook up this harebrained scheme of concealment.
Oh, you mustn't be too hard on them. It was my fault. I went on and on at them.
I've no doubt you did. What I don't understand is who telephoned the police?
Oh, why, how extraordinary. Oh, yes, I'd forgotten that.
Clearly wasn't you. Wouldn't be any of the three gentlemen.
Elgin? Miss Peake?
Not Miss Peake. She didn't know the body was in there.
I wonder.
Why, when the body was discovered, she had hysterics.
Oh, anyone can have hysterics.
Anyway, she doesn't live in the house. She has her own cottage.
Oh, but she could have been in the house. She has keys to all the doors.
Looks to me more like Elgin who telephoned.
You won't send me to prison, will you? Uncle Rowley said you wouldn't.
It's a good thing you changed your story in time and told the truth, Mrs. Helsham Brown. If you let me advise you, you'll get in touch with your solicitor as soon as possible. In the meantime, I'll have your statement typed out and read over to you, and perhaps you'll sign it.
I couldn't keep it away any longer, Inspector. Is it all right? Do you understand?
Oh, Rowley, darling, I've made a statement and the police, Mr. Jones, is going to type it. Then I've got to sign it and I've told them everything. How I thought it was a burglar and hit him over the head, and then it turned out to be Oliver, and I got in a terrible flap and rang you, and how I begged and at last you gave in. Oh, I see now how wrong of me it was, but at the time I was just scared stiff. I thought it would be cosier for everybody, for me, for Henry, and even Miranda, if Oliver were found in Marsden Wood.
Clarissa, what have you been saying?
Mrs. Helsham Brown has made a very full statement, sir.
So it seems.
It was the best thing to do. It was the only thing to do. The inspector made me see that.
It will lead to far less trouble in the end. Now, Mrs. Helsham Brown, I shan't ask you to go into the recess while the body is in there, but I'd just like you to show me exactly where the man was standing when you came through that way.
Oh, well, yes. He was here like this.
I see. And Jones. And then the door opened, and you came through that way, and then... What the hell? Where's the body?
Sucks to you?
I'm really very sorry, Doctor, but we did have a body.
Really, Inspector Lloyd, you've dragged me down all this way on a wild goose chase.
But are you sure, Doctor? We did have a body.
The inspector's right, Doctor. We did have a body.
Well, I can't see how you policemen ever get anything done. What with losing bodies?
Well, I don't understand why a guard wasn't put on the body.
Well, I'm not wasting any more time. You'll be hearing more about this from me, Inspector Lloyd.
Yes,
Out of
Doctor.
the way, you.
Good night, Doctor. Now, Elgin.
I know nothing about it. I assure you, sir. Nothing at all.
I want a word with you.
Aye, aye, aye.
Seems a rather bad moment for the police reinforcements to arrive. The divisional surgeon seemed rather annoyed at not finding a corpse to examine.
But who can have spirited it away? Do you suppose Jeremy managed it somehow?
I can't see how he could have, because they weren't letting anybody into the library, and the door from the library to the hall was locked. Pippa's sucks to you was the last straw. But it still shows us one thing, that Costello got to the secret drawer. Now, Clarissa, why didn't you tell the truth to the inspector?
Oh, but I did, except for the part about Pippa. He didn't believe me.
You stuffed him full of nonsense.
Oh, well, it seemed the most likely thing he would believe. And he has believed me.
A fine mess you're in. Manslaughter for all you know.
Self-defence.
Pushing us around here and there. Now it seems they've gone and lost the body.
Damn funny, I call it.
It's fantastic. The whole thing's fantastic. Who rang up the police and said there'd been a murder here?
Elgin,
That Peake woman.
But why? It doesn't make sense.
Hello. Coast clear. No bobbies about. They seem to be swarming all over the place.
They're searching the house and grounds.
What for?
The body, it's gone.
Oh, what a lark. The disappearing body, eh?
Nah, it's a nightmare. The whole thing's a damned nightmare.
It's quite like the films, eh, Mrs. Brown-Hosham?
Hope you're feeling better now, Miss Peake.
Oh, I'm all right. Pretty tough, really, you know. Just bowled over by opening that door and finding a corpse. Turned me up for the moment, I must admit.
Well, I wondered perhaps if you knew it was there.
Oh, me? Yes, you.
But it doesn't make any sense. Why take the body away? We all know there's a body. We know his identity and everything. There's no point in it.
Oh, I wouldn't say that, Mr. Birch. You've got to have a body, you know. Habeas corpus and all that, remember? You've got to have a body before you can bring a charge of murder against anybody. So don't you worry, Mrs. Brown-Hosham. Everything's going to be all right.
Who do you mean?
I've kept my ears open this evening. Haven't spent all my time lying on the spare room bed. I never liked that man Elgin or his wife, listening at doors and running off to the police with stories about blackmail.
Oh, so you heard?
What I always say is stand by your own sex. Men. I don't hold with them. If they can't find the body, my dear, they can't bring a charge against you. And what I say is, if that brute was blackmailing you, you did quite right to crack him over the head and good riddance.
Oh, but I didn't.
I heard you tell that inspector all about it. And if it wasn't for that eavesdropping, skulking fellow Elgin, your story would sound quite all right.
Which one?
About mistaking him for a burglar. It's the blackmail angle puts a different complexion on it. So I thought, there's only one thing to be done. Get rid of the body. And let the police chase their tails looking for it. Pretty smart work, if I say so myself.
Do you mean to say that it was you?
Yes, we're all friends here, aren't we? Yes, I moved the body, locking the door. I've got keys to all the doors in this house.
But how? Where did you put it?
The spare room bed. You know, that big four-poster right across the head of the bed under the bolster. Then I remade the bed and lay down on top of it.
You couldn't. How did you manage it? You couldn't get it up the stairs all by yourself.
Oh, you'd be surprised. Good old fireman's lift slung it over my shoulder.
But what happens if you met someone on the stairs?
Oh, but I didn't. The police were in here with Mrs. Brown-Hosham. You three were in the dining room. So I grabbed my chance, and of course the body, and took it through the hall, locked the library door again, and popped it up the stairs to the spare room.
Well, upon my soul.
But he can't stay under the bolster forever.
Oh, no, not forever, of course, Mrs. Hosham Brown. 24 hours, though. By that time, the police will have finished with the house and grounds. They'll be looking further afield. Now, I've been thinking. I took out a nice deep trench this morning for the sweet peas. Well, we'll bury the body there, and I'll plant a nice double row of sweet peas all along it.
I'm afraid, Miss Peake, grave digging is no longer a matter of private enterprise.
Oh, you men, always such sticklers. Now, we've got more sense, eh, Mrs. Houshenbrand? We can even take murder in our stride.
Of course she didn't kill him. Don't believe a word of it.
Well, if she didn't kill him, who did?
Oh, Pippa! What are you doing out of bed?
I came down as frightfully hungry. You said you'd bring this up.
But I thought you were asleep.
I was asleep. Then I thought a policeman came and looked at me. I've been having this awful dream. Then I half woke up. Then I was hungry, so I thought I'd come down. Besides, I thought it might be true.
What might be true?
That horrible dream about Oliver.
What dream about Oliver, Pippa? Tell me.
Where is it? Here it is. I made this tonight. I melted down a wax candle. Then I made a pin red hot and stuck it through it.
Good heavens.
I said the right words and everything, but I couldn't do it quite as the book said.
What book? I don't understand.
Here it is. She found it in the market today. She called it a recipe book.
You said, can you eat it?
100 well-tried and trusty spells. How to cure warts. How to get your heart's desire. How to destroy your enemy.
Oh, Pippa, is that what you did?
Yes. It isn't very like Oliver, and I couldn't get any clippings of his hair, but it was as like him as I could make it. And then, I dreamed. I thought. I came down and I saw him. There. He was there. And it was all true. He was there, dead. I had killed him. Is it true? Did I kill him?
No, darling, no.
But he was there.
Yes, but you didn't kill him, Pippa. When you put that pin through this figure, it was your hate and fear of him you killed that way. You're not afraid of him anymore, and you don't hate him any longer, do you? Isn't that true?
Yes, it's true. But I saw him. I came down here and I saw him lying there dead. I did see him.
Yes, you did see him, dear, but it wasn't you that killed him. Pippa, now listen to me. Somebody hit him over the head with a big stick. You didn't do that, did you?
Oh no. Not a stick. You mean a golf stick like Jeremy had?
No, not a golf club, Pippa. That big stick that's kept on the hall stand.
The one that belonged to Mr. Sellen, Miss Pete called an obcarry?
Mm-hmm.
Oh no. I wouldn't do anything like that. I couldn't. Oh, Uncle Rolly, I couldn't have killed him, really.
Oh, of course you wouldn't, darling. Now, you eat up your chocolate mousse and forget all about this.
I don't understand a word of all this. What is that book?
How to bring a Morio into your neighbour's cattle? Does that attract you, Miss Peak? I dare say, with a little adjusting, you could bring Black Spot to your neighbour's roses.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Black magic.
No, I'm not superstitious, thank goodness.
Well, I'm in a complete fog.
Me too. I'll just take a peep and see how the boys in blue are getting on.
Now where are we?
Oh, what a fool I've been. Oh, I didn't know anything about that book. Pippa said she'd killed him, and I thought it was true.
So you mean you thought that Pippa...
Yes, darling.
Oh, I see. That explains it. Good grief.
Well, we better go to the police then.
No, I don't think so. She's already told them 3 stories.
No. Wait. I've got an idea. Hugo, what was the name of Mr. Sellen's shop?
It was an antique shop.
Oh, yes, I know, but what was it called?
Well, what do you mean, what was it called?
Oh, dear, you are being difficult. You said it earlier, and I want you to say it again, but I don't want to tell you to say it.
You know what the girl's getting at, Rolly?
No idea. Try again, Clarissa.
It's perfectly simple. What was the name of the antique shop?
Well, it hadn't got a name. I mean, antique shops aren't called Seaview or anything.
Oh, heaven give me patience. What was written up over the door?
Written up? Oh, nothing. What should be written up? Only Sellen and Brown, of course.
Oh, at last. I thought that's what you said before, but I wasn't sure. Sellen and Brown. My name is Hailsham Brown. Why, we got this house dirt cheap. Other people who came to see it before us were asked such an exorbitant rent that they went away in disgust. Now have you got there?
No.
Not yet.
In a glass dimly.
Mr. Sellen's partner, who lives in London, is a woman. Somebody rang up today and asked to speak to Mrs. Brown. Not Mrs. Hailsham Brown, just Mrs. Brown.
I see what you're getting at.
Well, I don't.
A horse chestnut or a chestnut horse. One of them makes all the difference.
You're not delirious at all, are you, Clarissa?
Somebody killed Oliver. It wasn't any of you 3. It wasn't me or Henry. It wasn't Pippa, thank goodness. Then who was it?
Oh, it's as I said to the inspector. It was an outside job. Somebody followed Oliver here.
But why did they? When I saw you off to the gate today, and I came in and in through that window, and Oliver was standing by this desk, he was very surprised to see me. He said, "Clarissa, what are you doing here?" I thought it was just an elaborate way of annoying me, but suppose it was just what it seemed. He was surprised to see me. Why, he thought the house belonged to someone else. He thought the person he'd find here would be the Mrs. Brown who was Mr. Sellen's partner.
But wouldn't he know that you and Henry have this house? Wouldn't Miranda know?
Oh, when Miranda has to communicate, she always does so through her lawyers. No, I tell you, Oliver had no idea he was going to see me. Oh, he recovered pretty quickly and made the excuse he'd come to talk about Pippa, and then he pretended to go away, but actually he came back and he wanted...
The hunt's still on. They've looked under all the beds, I gather, and now they're out in the grounds.
Miss Peake, do you remember what Mr. Costello said just before he left? Do you?
Haven't an idea.
He said, didn't he, "I came to see Mrs. Brown"?
I believe he did, yes. Why?
But it wasn't me he came to see.
Oh, well, if it wasn't you, then I don't know who it was.
It was you. You're Mrs. Brown, aren't you?
That's bright of you. Yes, I'm Mrs. Brown.
You're Mr. Sellen's partner. You own this house. You inherited it with the business. You had the idea of finding a tenant for it whose name was Brown. You thought that wouldn't be too difficult. In the end, you compromised on Hailsham Brown. I don't know exactly why you wanted me to be in the limelight whilst you watched. I don't understand the ins and outs.
Charles Sellen was murdered. He'd got hold of something that was very valuable. I don't know how. I don't even know what it was. He wasn't always very scrupulous.
So we've heard.
Whatever it was, he was killed for it. And whoever killed him didn't find the thing. Probably because it wasn't in the shop, it was here. I thought that whoever killed him would come here sooner or later. I wanted to be on the watch. Therefore, I wanted a dummy, Mrs. Brown.
So it didn't worry you that Mrs. Halsham Brown, a perfectly innocent woman, would be in danger?
I've kept an eye on her, haven't I? So much so that it annoyed you all sometimes. The other day, when a man came along and offered her a ridiculous price for that desk, I was sure I was on the right track. Yet, I'll swear there's nothing in that desk that meant anything at all.
Have you tried the secret drawer?
A secret drawer, is there?
Oh, there's nothing there now. Pippa found the drawer, but there were only some old autographs in it.
Clarissa, I'd rather like to see those autographs again.
Oh, Pippa, where did you put... Oh, she's asleep.
Fast asleep. That's all the excitement. Tell you what, I'll carry her up and dump her on her bed.
No.
She's no weight, not a quarter as heavy as the late Mr. Costello.
All the same, she's safer here.
Safer?
Safer?
That's what I said. This child said something very significant just now. If you
What?
all think back, you might remember.
What did she say?
I can't imagine. The police, dreaming, coming down here, half awake.
Oh, don't be so damn mysterious, Rolly. What is all this?
Those autographs, where are they?
Oh, I believe I remember Pippa putting them in that shell box over there.
Oh, here they are.
Victoria, right? God bless her. Faded brown ink. John Ruskin. Is authentic, I should say. Robert Browning. Paper not as old as it should
Oh,
be.
Rolly, what do you mean?
Well, during the war, I had experience with invisible ink, and if you wanted to write something secret, what you would do is you'd use invisible ink on a sheet of paper and then a fake autograph over the top and put it in with other genuine autographs, and nobody would look at it twice any more than we did.
But what could Charles Sutton have written that would be worth £14,000?
Nothing, dear lady, but it occurs to me it's more a matter of safety.
Safety?
Yes, Costello was suspected of supplying drugs. Selin, so the inspector tells us, was questioned by the narcotics squad. I think there's a connection there. Might be just a foolish idea of mine. It wouldn't be anything too elaborate on Selin's part. Lemon juice or maybe a solution of barium chloride. A little gentle heat would do it. We could try iodine vapor later. Yes, a little gentle heat. Shall we do the experiment?
Oh, yes, there's an electric fire in the library. Oh, Jeremy, will you get it? We can plug it in here.
The whole thing's ridiculous. Too far-fetched for words.
Oh, I think it's a wonderful idea. Got it?
Yes. Where's the plug?
Down here.
We mustn't hope for too much. It's only an idea, but there must be a very good reason why Selin kept this in such a secret place.
Takes me back years. I remember writing secret messages with lemon juice when I was a kid.
So, which shall we start with?
Oh, Queen Victoria.
6-1 Ruskin.
My money's on Robert Browning.
Oh, most obscure chap. I could never understand a word of his poetry.
Exactly, full of hidden meaning.
Oh, I can't bear it if nothing happens.
I believe, yes.
Yes, something's coming up.
Oh, is it?
Oh, move above, young man.
Steady on, don't jog me. Yes, we've got it, there's writing.
What have you got?
6 names and addresses. Distributors in the drug racket, I believe. And one of those names is Oliver Costello.
Oliver? Oh, so that's why he came down here, and why someone must have followed him. And oh, Uncle Rolly, we must go to the police.
Yes.
Oh, come along, Hugo.
Oh, most extraordinary thing I ever heard of.
Coming, Miss Peake?
Oh, you don't want me, do you?
You were his partner.
I never had anything to do with the drug side. I ran the antique side, did all the London buying and selling.
I see.
Oh, there you are, Jeremy.
Yes, I remember what Sir Roland said. So I thought we oughtn't leave Pippa all alone. Her feet seemed a bit cold, so I was just covering them up.
All this excitement is making me terribly hungry. Oh, Jeremy, you've eaten them all.
Oh, I'm terribly sorry, I was hungry.
I don't see why you should be. You've had dinner. I haven't.
Well, I haven't had dinner either. I was practicing approach shots. I only came into the dining room just after your telephone call came.
Oh, I see. I see. You.
What do you mean?
You.
What do you mean by you?
What were you doing with that cushion when I came into the room?
I was covering up Pippa's feet. They were cold.
Were you? Is that really what you were going to do? Or were you going to put that cushion over her mouth?
Clarissa!
I said that none of us could have killed him, but one of us could. You. You were out on the golf course alone. You could have come back to the house, in through the library window, which you'd left open. You had your golf club still in your hand. Oh, that's what Pippa saw. That's what she meant when she said a golf stick like Jeremy had. She saw you.
But that's nonsense, Clarissa.
No, it isn't. And then after you'd killed Oliver, you went back to the club and rang the police so they should come here, find the body and think Henry or I had done it.
Oh, what absolute rubbish!
It's true, I know it, it's true, but why? That's what I don't understand. Why?
This.
That's the envelope the autographs were in.
There's a stamp on it. It's what's known as an error stamp, printed in the wrong colour. One from Sweden sold last year for £14,300.
So that's it.
This stamp came into Sellen's possession. He wrote to my boss about it. I opened the letter, came down and saw Sellen.
And killed him. But you couldn't find the stamp.
No, it wasn't in the shop. So I felt sure it must have been here. And tonight, I thought Costello had beaten me to it.
And so you killed him too? And just now you would have killed Pippa?
Well, why not?
I can't believe it.
My dear Clarissa, £14,000 is a great deal of money.
But why are you telling me all this? Do you suppose for one moment that I shan't go to the police?
Well, they'll never believe you.
Oh, yes, they will.
And besides, you're not going to get the chance. When I've killed 2 people, do you think I shall worry about killing a third?
All right, Warrender. Thank you. That's just the evidence we need. Give me that envelope.
A trap. Very clever.
Jeremy Warrender, I arrest you for the murder of Oliver Costello. And I must warn you that anything you say may be taken down and may be given in evidence.
But you can save your breath, Inspector. It was a good gamble.
Take him away.
Forgotten your handcuffs, Mr. Jones?
Are you all right, my dear?
Oh, yes, I'm all right.
I never meant to expose you to this.
Oh, but you knew it was Jeremy, didn't you?
What made you think of the stamp, sir?
Well, it rang a bell when Pippa gave me the envelope this evening, and then when I found out from Who's Who that Sir Lazarus Stein was a stamp collector, my suspicion developed. And then when he had the impertinence to pocket the envelope under my nose, I knew it to be certainty. Take great care of that, Inspector. That's very valuable apart from evidence.
It's evidence, all right. Particularly vicious young criminal is going to get his deserts. However, still got to find the body.
Oh, well, that's easy, Inspector. Just look in the spare room bed.
Now, really, Mrs. Hailsham-Brown?
Well, why does nobody ever believe me when I'm telling the truth? It is in the spare room bed. You go and look, Inspector, across the bed, under the bolster. And Miss Peake put it there, trying to be kind.
Trying to be... You know, Mrs. Hailsham-Brown, you haven't made things easier for us tonight, telling us all these tall stories. I suppose you thought your husband had done it and were lying to cover up for him. But you shouldn't do it, madam. You really shouldn't do it.
Well. Oh, Pippa.
Best get her up to bed. She's safe now.
Come on, Pippa, up's a daisy. Time you were in bed.
Hungry.
Yes, we'll see what we can find.
Good night, Pippa.
No.
Can I help you, Clarissa?
No, thank you, I can manage.
Well, bless my soul, I'd never have believed it. Seemed a decent enough young fellow, been to a good school, knew all the right people.
But was willing to commit murder for £14,000.
Yep.
It happens in all stages of society, Hugo. A attractive personality with no moral sense.
I thought I'd just tell you, Sir Roland. I've got to go along to the police station. They want me to make a statement. They're not too pleased at the trick I played them. I'm in for a wigging, I'm afraid.
Yes.
You know, Rolly, old boy, I don't quite get it. Was Miss Peake Mrs. Sellon, or was Mr. Sellon Mr. Brown, or the other way round?
We're removing the body now, sir.
Very good, Inspector.
Would you mind advising Mrs. Helsham Brown that if she tells these fancy stories to the police, one day she'll get into real trouble?
Well, she did actually tell you the true story once, Inspector, but you simply wouldn't believe it.
Yes. Well, frankly, sir, it was a bit difficult to swallow, you'll admit.
Oh, I admit.
Not that I blame you, sir. Mrs. Helsham Brown is a lady with a very taking way with her.
Yes.
Good night, sir.
Good night, Inspector.
Good night, Mr. Birch.
Oh, well done, Inspector.
Oh, thank you, sir.
Well, suppose I'd better be going home to bed. Some evening, eh, Rolly?
As you say, Hugo, some evening.
Same again tomorrow evening?
Oh, I hope not, Hugo, I hope not.
Good night, good night.
Good night.
Darling Rolly. And so clever, too.
You're a very lucky young lady. You didn't lose your heart to that young man.
If I lost my heart to anybody, darling, it would be to you.
Now, none of your tricks with me.
Oh, Henry!
Hello, Rolly. I thought you were at the club tonight.
I think I'll turn in early. It's been a rather strenuous night.
Bridge.
Bridge and other things. Good night.
Where's Mr. Jones?
He didn't come.
What?
The plane arrived with nothing more than a half-baked aide de camp in it. The first thing he did was turn around and fly back where he came from.
Why?
How am I to know? Suspicious, it seems. Suspicious of what, I ask you?
Oh, but what about Sir John?
That's the worst of it. He'll be arriving down any moment now, I expect. Of course, I rang directly from the aerodrome, but it already started. Oh, the whole thing's a most ghastly fiasco.
Oh, I'll answer it. It may be the police.
The police?
Coppleston Court? Oh, yes, he's here. Oh, darling, it's for you. Bindley Heath Aerodrome.
Hello? Yes, speaking. What? 10 minutes later? Shall I? Yes. Yes. No. No. You have? I see. Right. Clarissa! Another plane came in just 10 minutes after the first, and Callendorf was on it.
Mr. Jones, you mean?
Quite right, darling. One can't be too careful. Yes, it seems the first plane was a kind of security precaution. Really, one can't fathom how these people's minds work. Anyway, they're sitting right over with an RAF escort. He'll be here in about a quarter of an hour. Now, is everything right? Get rid of those cards, will you?
Oh.
What's this?
Oh, Pippa was eating it. I'll take it away. I'll make some more sandwiches.
Not yet. The chairs. I thought you were going to have everything ready. What have you been doing all this evening?
Oh, but darling, it's been the most terribly exciting evening. Why, I came in here with some sandwiches soon after you left, and the first thing that happened was I fell over a body. There, behind the sofa.
Your stories are always enchanting, darling, but there just isn't time now.
Oh, but darling, it's true.
And that was just the beginning. The police came and it was just one thing after another. There was a narcotic ring and Miss Peake isn't Miss Peake, she's really Mrs. Brown. And Jeremy turned out to be the murderer and he was trying to steal a stamp worth £14,000.
Must have been a second Swedish yellow.
Oh, yes, that's just what it was.
The things you imagine, Clarissa.
Oh, but darling, I didn't imagine it. Why, I couldn't have imagined half as much. Oh, how extraordinary it is. All my life, nothing has really happened to me, and why, tonight I've had the lot. Murder, police, drug addicts, invisible ink, secret writing, almost arrested for manslaughter and very nearly murdered.
Do go and make that coffee, darling.
Oh, but darling, don't you realise that I was nearly murdered?
Either Sir John or Mr. Jones might arrive at any moment.
Oh, what I've been through tonight. Why, it reminds me of Sir Walter Scott.
What does?
My aunt made me learn it by heart. Oh, what a tangled web we weave when first we practice to deceive.
My adorable spider.
Oh, darling, do you know the facts of life about spiders? They eat their husbands.
I'm more likely to eat you.
Sir Jones!
Mr. John!
Oh, darling, you go and answer the front door. I'll leave coffee and sandwiches in the hall, and you can bring them in when you want them. High-level talks will now begin. Good luck, darling.
Good luck. Thanks. Good evening, Sir John.
Good evening, Mr. Elsham.